To achieve a slimmer face, the young woman places her head inside a massive, industrial, iron vise. She allows the plastic surgeon to bind her hands and feet, but as she watches him, noticing his clumsy, vacant expression, a wave of pure panic washes over her. She tries to reach for her phone, but it slips from her trembling fingers and clatters to the floor. The surgeon picks up a simple wooden ruler and begins measuring her face with agonizing slowness. His lack of sophisticated equipment deepens her suspicion. When she finally questions his methods, the surgeon offers no verbal defense. He simply stares, determined to let his professionalism speak for itself. Through the results of this bizarre procedure, confusion turns to terror as the surgeon pulls on a pair of heavy leather gloves. He grips the long handles of the vise and begins to rotate them. Crack! Snap! The sound of shifting bone echoes through the room as the iron clamps begin to tighten around her skull. Despite her agonizing screams, the surgeon doesn't flinch. His eyes are fixed on the task. Suddenly, the machine jerks and grinds to a halt. The vise is jammed. Panic flares in the woman's eyes, but the surgeon's assistant rushes over to help. Together, the two men throw their weight against the handles, forcing the rusted gears to turn once more. The surgery continues, with brutal, primitive force. After exactly 49 grueling rotations, the surgeon finally releases the pressure. The woman's face has indeed become narrower, just as she requested. However, when she is finally discharged and steps onto the street, she doesn't find admiration. Instead, pedestrians stop and stare in horror at her distorted, eerie features. A face that no longer looks human. The surgery is complete. The woman's face is no longer round. It has been crushed into a perfectly sharp, rigid square. Yet, she looks into the mirror with absolute confidence. Seeing the shocked stares of people on the street, she misinterprets their horror for admiration. She truly believes she has finally achieved the high-fashion look of a supermodel. A few months ago, she was just a simple girl from the countryside. Fueled by dreams of the runway, she abandoned her quiet life for the dazzling lights of the metropolis. But in a world overflowing with beauty, her ordinary looks were a curse. Every audition ended in rejection, and she soon found herself penniless, scraping by as a supermarket cashier. Ambition soured into obsession. She became convinced that plastic surgery was her only escape. Her boyfriend begged her to stop, insisting that inner beauty mattered more, but she only saw his words as a lack of support. She began to spiral. She hallucinated that every passerby was whispering the word "ugly" behind her back. One afternoon, she stared up at a massive billboard. The model on the poster seemed to come to life, smirking, mocking her plainness. Driven to a breaking point, she fled into a narrow alleyway and stumbled upon a mysterious, face-slimming clinic. The final straw came after another failed competition. Desperate, she knocked on the clinic's door the very next day. She was greeted by a handsome doctor, whose charm blinded her to the strangeness of his office. By the time she realized the industrial nature of his tools, she was already strapped to the table. It was too late. The results were haunting, yet the doctor showered her with praise, convincing her the surgery was a masterpiece. She fell in love with him, mistaking his clinical concern for romantic devotion. But the illusion shattered when the doctor coldly clarified the truth. Crushed by the rejection and the realization of her ruined face, the woman's mind finally snapped. She chose to end her life, leaving behind a story that ignited a firestorm of public debate over the ethics of the beauty industry and the tragic, hollow cost of vanity. Following the death of the aspiring model, the plastic surgeon and his assistant are placed on the most wanted list. They disguise themselves and flee, the doctor leaving behind everything except for one thing: his pride and joy, the massive iron vise. After months on the run, he finds a new prey. The target is a rich socialite, desperate to keep the heart of her much younger boyfriend. She agrees to the miraculous procedure in secret. However, mid-surgery, the boyfriend returns home unexpectedly. The sight of his girlfriend's head, locked in an industrial tool, leaves him paralyzed with shock. In a panic, the boyfriend tries to release the vise. But in his clumsiness, he turns the handle the wrong way. The vise tightens, with a sickening crunch. The socialite's head is crushed flatter and flatter. Suddenly, the metal wrench snaps in half. With the mechanism jammed, the boyfriend decides to use brute force. He grabs his girlfriend's legs and pulls with all his might. The result is instant and fatal. As the woman takes her last breath, the doctor and the boyfriend are gripped by terror. After a frantic session of blaming each other, they strike a deal. They will drive the body to the outskirts and bury her, pretending this nightmare never happened. Disaster strikes halfway to the burial site. Their car swerves and gets stuck in a deep mud pit. As they struggle, a group of helpful strangers appears. Despite the duo's protests, the strangers insist on helping. With a coordinated shove, the car lunges forward. The jolt causes the trunk to pop open. The mangled corpse is revealed to the horrified crowd. Seeing his crime exposed, the boyfriend floors the accelerator, disappearing into the night and leaving the doctor standing helpless in the dust. Before long, the doctor is captured and locked in a dark cell, sentenced to death for the multiple lives claimed by his art. In his final moments, before execution, the doctor finally achieves a moment of true clarity. Looking back at the victims of his vice, he realizes the tragic truth of this distorted society. Every person is a unique masterpiece. In a world of chaotic values, learning to appreciate and cherish your true self is what matters most. Do not blindly succumb to the hollow definitions of beauty. Your existence in this world is, in itself, the most beautiful scenery.